Okay, so today I'm going to do a watch reaction video on one of Bob Proctor's seminars. I may do some summaries on it and just kind of go over kind of the main principles of it and make it a little bit faster than these seminars are. These parts are like an hour or two each, so kind of shorten it down, but should get all the good pieces out of it. Um, if you like these kind of videos, comment below and I'll make more. But basically, the premise of what Bob Proctor was, he's passed away now. Um, Rest in peace. He's a goat when it comes to a lot of the law of attraction stuff and a lot of the secret. He was in the secret. He has been around for since probably the '60s. This seminar looks like it's from the '70s or '80s, but it's one of my favorite uh, seminar recordings out there, and I just kind of wanted to share and watch it with y'all. So I'll go ahead and get started on it. But basically, the main premise is that you control your life, your thoughts, your subconscious controls, and it kind of goes deep into like action steps and some stuff that you can do to improve your life. So let's watch this and learn and improve our lives together. I'll go ahead and get started.
With every gift known to man, reaching in the palm of your tiny hand, given a chance to dream a vision that your heart has already seen. Pass the torch, one to another, carry the flame as far as you can. Pass the torch, sister to brother, the journey is yours, the journey is mine, a journey to understand. Holding on to the key, ready to unlock your destiny. Oh, rich.
World-famous athletes, astronauts, international personalities who have really made a difference in our world. You and I, we all started out exactly the same, just like that beautiful little baby that you just saw. We were born rich in potential. We have deep reservoirs of talent and ability within us. You're about to embark on one of the most exciting journeys you could possibly get involved with. This program, You Were Born Rich, is the most effective personal development program in the world today.
Yeah, and just kind of to add my 2 cents on to what he said, it probably is one of the most effective programs out there. People that mentored under Bob are some of the richest people, some of the most successful people. And a lot of the people that are super successful don't want you to know this stuff. The top 1% wants you to stay. I think it was Ford that said he wanted people to stay dumb. He didn't want them to know some of this stuff because then who's going to work in his factories? Because what will happen is as you learn this stuff and as you grow, you're going to up level in life. You're going to be doing higher level stuff. You're not going to be working in the factories no more because you can do anything that anybody else has ever done on the earth, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
It's been designed specifically to help you realize all of your dreams, live the life that you really want to live. We're going to invite you into a live seminar so that you can experience the excitement, the high energy of actually being there. We have special guest Paul Hutsey on the program. You'll be meeting other personalities, people just like you and I, who have been involved in this program, and it's made a tremendous difference in their life. Consider this. Just like that baby, when you and I were born, we were natural-born risk takers. We had no limitations. We were free to step out and do everything we wanted to do. Now, some of the people that you are going to see interviewed have attended this seminar, some of them a number of times, most of them at least twice. The real benefit of having this seminar on the video is that you can stop the tape at any time and go back and play it over again. You see, reading and memorizing or just watching this really is not going to do you any good. You must understand and apply the ideas. Now, the exercise...
Something that I've learned from one of my mentors yesterday, an unrelated thing to motivational stuff, because I have a marketing agency, so I have mentors in that. And something that one of them said that stuck with me, and something I've kind of done without realizing it. If you don't get this video, then you need to watch it again. You need to watch this one that I have. You need to find the ones that Bob Proctor has. You need to look at the ones on my channel. You need to watch them over and over again until it sinks into your mind subconsciously, till you can sleep with it and know it. And then you have to act on it, or it's not worth anything to you. So learn it, relearn it until it sticks with you, and then you would want to put it into action, or it's a waste of time.
Book, your action planner that's in your program is vitally important. It's probably one of the most important elements in your entire Born Rich program. It's vitally important that as I suggest you get involved in an exercise, you take it and you really get involved. Stop the tape. Think of where you are and think of where you want to go, and complete the exercise. Don't put it off.
Well, I want to wish you a very warm welcome to our seminar here today. And we've got a special guest who is sitting at home. And we're inviting that person into our seminar, and they're going to experience everything you're going to experience. I know many of you have been through our seminars before. Some of you have never been through our.
So did he just break the fourth wall, the third wall, the fourth wall, whatever that's called? Talking about us, talking about me, talking about you. Now it's me talking about him, talking about me, talking about you.
Our seminars. But I think you'll find if you keep your mind wide open, just sit back and relax, you're going to find it a pretty interesting experience. I've often mentioned that we never give anybody a brain hernia with the information we use. It's all very simple, and it's very, very effective. You know, I've spent a long time studying the subject of why we do what we do and why we don't do some of the things that we'd really like to do. And I've come to the conclusion that the two main elements in a successful, fulfilled life is motivation and education. And
so you might want to write that down. Two biggest elements in a successful life is motivation and education. So something that my channel hits on a lot, and something Bob Proctor and other teachers hit on a lot, is being motivated and being educated.
And if we get a proper balance of motivation and education, we're going to find that we're going to be led into some very wise decisions that'll inspire us into some intelligent action, and we will live a very, very fulfilled life. What I would like to suggest you do is flip to page 2 in your action planner. Take your action planner and turn to page 2. You know, some time ago, John Canary gave me a little piece of literature about getting out of the comfort zone that was written by Bob Briggs in southern Florida. And there's some excellent information in here. Many of us are pretty comfortable in our life. We've got a reasonably good income. The mortgage is paid. There's food in the fridge. We've got a nice warm bed to sleep in. And everything seems to be floating along just fine. And you know, a person in that position could very easily think, why would I want to do anything to change this? Well, we have found that if your life is not going in one direction, it absolutely, by law, must be moving in another direction. And Riggs is talking about that here. He said many of us have established a comfort zone in our lives. We're just coasting along, taking the line of least resistance, just getting by. Now, he said this is a very common and understandable attitude. We've all worked hard to get to where we are, and it may seem a very good place to be. The problem with this is that once we stop reaching, stretching, seeking, and risking, we actually stop growing. Now, Riggs goes on to say that the comfort zone frame of mind, along, take without continued growth, and I believe that all we are.
So just kind of wanted to focus in on this real fast. So without continued growth, we are all we ever going to be. And a lot of people will say without the growth, you'll start downsliding, because just a matter of being human and being in this world, it's a law of entropy. Stuff will start falling apart.
Are ever going to be. Now, for me, that would be a fairly disturbing thought. He went on to say, if you're in a comfort zone, beware. The danger of a comfort zone is that it doesn't hurt, and it might even feel good. Many take that to mean it's a good place to be, but it's not. A comfort zone may be what is holding you back from real growth, real accomplishment, and your potentially exciting and rewarding future. Now, I've mentioned if we're not going in one direction, we must by law be going in another direction. You're either creating or you're disintegrating.
And that's kind of the same thing I was just saying. You're either going up or you're going down. So beware of the comfort zone.
Whenever we hear a person say, I like it just the way it is, we know that person is advertising their ignorance of a very basic law of life, because absolutely nothing stays the way it is. Now, if you'll take a look at the top of page 2, there is a concept there by Sidney Herbert Wood, and it's the test of an educated person. I think many of us have had a false concept programmed into our mind with respect to education. We, I think, have been raised to believe that education is going to school for a certain number of years and be able to correctly answer a series of questions. But you know, many people will go to school all their life and be able to correctly answer the questions, but then when it comes to getting out into the marketplace and really making it happen, they just don't know how to compete. Many are withdrawn. They don't even feel comfortable meeting or greeting a stranger. Well, Wood said the test of an educated person is, can I entertain a new idea? Now, I think you know, and I know, that if we're going to improve, we have to have a very open mind. I once heard that an open mind was being prepared to throw away some of our most cherished beliefs when a better idea comes along. Now, you'll find that the vast majority of people seems to back into the future, dragging all of their old experience with them. When they're confronted with a new idea, they ask, does it fit? If it doesn't, then they say it's wrong. Now, what we want to do is ask ourselves, would this new idea improve the quality of my life, or would it get me going in the other direction? Can I entertain a new idea? Today and tomorrow, you're going to be asked to entertain many new ideas, but every one of the ideas that we're going to share with you are going to be positive, they're going to be creative, they're going to be constructive, and they'll definitely improve the quality of your life. Then we see the second one, can I entertain another person? Now, there's many people that would feel totally uncomfortable. He said, you're always broke. He said, you represent the results that you're getting in your life. Now, that you have rich resources lying dormant within you. I have heard many people laugh when they take a look at our program or take a look at the title of the book, Born Rich. You see, they think that means that you've been born into great wealth. Some people are, but some people are not. But everyone.
So, yeah, what he said was that as far as, you know, we're not all born into the same circumstances, but we can change them. There's people that are born poor that are richer than anybody else has ever been. So, and you're born rich in another way. You have an infinite amount of resources available. All human beings have an infinite amount of resources. They might have to change their environment. They might have to learn some things to be able to get. They may even have to change countries, but they can get there.
One, without exception, has been born with tremendous resources lying within them. We've got deep reservoirs of talent and ability. And through following right rules and natural laws, we're going to find that we can draw that potential to the surface and we can bring it to bear, and it will cause the manifestation of prosperity in our material world. Now, in almost all the seminars that either John or myself does, we take and we put an R here in the board. Now, what I would like to suggest you do is you let that R represent the results that you're getting in your life. Now, there's 3 areas that we're going to suggest that you focus on. One is happiness, one is health, and another one is material wealth. Now, when I first started to study this material, I was not happy, I was not healthy, and I definitely was not wealthy. I had a chap sit down with me, and he saw something in me that I obviously wasn't capable of seeing in myself. His name was Raymond Stanford, Raymond Douglas Stanford. In fact, I named my son after him, Raymond Douglas Proctor. And Ray looked at me and he said, Bob, let this here represent results that you're getting in your life. Then he asked me if I thought he was a happy person. And I said, yeah, thought he was. He said, have you ever seen me sick? And I had to admit I hadn't. He said, have you ever seen me when I was broke? And again, I had to admit I hadn't. Well, he proceeded to tell me that he thought I was one of the most miserable people he had ever met. Well, and you know, it was true. I was an unhappy human being. He said, you're always sick. Now, I didn't have a terminal illness, but I always had a headache or a cold or a backache or something. And he pointed at the area of money. He said, you're always broke. He said, you're forever trying to hit somebody up for a couple of dollars for gas. Now, if I was to put this in proper perspective for you, I was earning $4,000 a year at the time, and I owed $6,000. So do you see, I wasn't really interested in being happy or healthy at the time. I figured if I could just get this money problem straightened out, everything was going to be great. He proceeded to tell me that there were certain laws governing happiness, and if you follow them, you can just keep getting happier and happier. That sounded a little foreign to me, but that was his opinion. And he pointed out that you and I have an ingenious system built within us to keep our body in excellent working order. And then when he talked about the area of money, he said, you know, he said, there's exact laws governing wealth. And he pointed out, he said, this stuff cannot talk, but it can hear. And he said, if you call it, it'll come. Well, I can assure you, I was ready to yell at the top of my lungs. I mean, if there was anything I wanted, it was some money. I figured it would take the heat off for a little while. Ray suggested that I go out and buy this book. It's Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. And you know, he said there's a secret in this book. And he said, if you can find the secret in the book, you can have anything you seriously want. Now, you take a person that's unhappy, not very healthy, is in debt, you'd have a difficult time accepting that. I was 26 and I just couldn't accept the idea. But as Ray said, your way's not working. Why don't you try his? And that's what I'd like to suggest to you today. If you're not getting the results you want, your way obviously isn't working. Why don't you try ours? Now, I often mention that John and I have got license to brag about every idea we use because none of them are ours. We don't claim that we've originated these ideas. In fact, we openly admit we haven't. We've just gathered them from books here and seminars there and great teachers all over the world. And what we've done is put them together in an organized, coherent manner. So if your way is not giving you the results you want, I would suggest that you take a real serious look at these ideas. Now, I looked for the secret and I couldn't find it, but I found in one place here, he said, a peculiar thing about this secret is that those who once acquire it and use it find themselves literally swept onto success with but little effort, and they never again submit to failure. What a marvelous promise. He said, if you doubt this, study the names of those who have used it, wherever they've been mentioned. Check their records for yourself, and you'll be convinced. Now, he lists upwards of 100 names here. He's got, and I got out books on Edison, and I got books on Rockefeller, and I got books on Woodrow Wilson, and all the great people that he had mentioned here. And you know what I found? I found they were no different than you. They were no different than me. Many of them had very little formal education, which made me feel fairly comfortable because I didn't either. Many of them had very, very rough roads to start on. But I found out we were essentially all the same. Do you know what was different? The results they were getting. And as I studied on here further, in his chapter on persistence, and he mentions that persistence to the quality or to the character of the human being is like what carbon is to steel. He said the only thing that he could find in Edison or Ford that he never found in everyone else was persistence. They'd get a hold of an idea and they'd stick with that idea. And I look back in my own life and I never did that. I'd try something a couple of times, and if it was rough, I quit. I'd have people saying, "Oh, Bob, why don't you just give it up?" I'd say, "Yeah, you're right," and I would. Now, you see the people I was mixing with, they were losing too.
Yeah, the great secret in Think and Grow Rich is by Napoleon Hill that he's trying to get to is that basically the continual persistence of a worthy ideal and the action steps to get there is what the secret is. That's what makes somebody a success. So constantly giving up, stopping, constantly just giving in to circumstances instead of looking at the goal and not giving up no matter what. You got people that have lost everything. I'm one of them. I lost everything, went homeless, went through a divorce, went through a second divorce, lost everything again, went homeless. And I just couldn't let go of the idea and the goal that I had to make $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month. And people would look at me and be like, you need to be grounded and go work a regular 9 to 5. And I would do that for a little while and I would just fall back. And it wasn't until I kept on persisting in my own businesses and in my own entrepreneurial endeavors that eventually, after a few years, they started kicking in and I started becoming a success. And you get these people, they're like, "Oh, it must be nice." Or, they're showing, gratitude, or they're showing, some people are very nice about it. And they're like, you made it look easy, and it's not easy. You have to persist through a lot of bad things sometimes.
I never stuck at anything. So I made up my mind, if I ever found this secret, I'd work it right until I died. Now, I did find the secret. It was in 100 different places in the book, and it was simply sit down, decide what you want, write it on a card, carry the card in your pocket, and read it as often as possible every day. Now, keep in mind, I was earning $4,000, I owed $6,000. I was sitting in a fire hall at the time, and I wrote on the card that I was going to have in my possession by New Year's Day of 1970, $25,000. Now, I wrote that on the card in 1960. The idea of having $25,000, it was sort of a fantasy. I don't think there was $25,000 in the whole fire hall at the time. Now, I wrote that in the card in 1960. Comprehension of this program is not difficult. In a relatively short period of time, you will be prepared to correctly answer a battery of questions about this Born Rich program. If you read it, memorize it, you could answer almost any question in it. But that doesn't mean that you're going to win. You could very quickly say, "I know." Someone mentions something, we'll say, "I know." I know somebody that says that all the time. Doesn't matter what you say to her. Vera says, "I know." All right. Now, knowing and doing are poles apart. And I point out in 2 or 3 places in the book that reading and memorizing are not going to make you successful. It's the understanding and then the application of wise thoughts that count. You must understand the idea and you must go out and act on the idea, regardless of how much your old program wants to hold you back. Nature, you and I are alike. By practice, we get wide apart. There's the difference in our results again. Now, he said the difference between the most dissimilar characters, between the real achievers and the non-achievers, for example, seems to arise not so much from nature as from habit, custom, and education. He went on to quote William James, who concluded that we use a very small part of our real potential. And James said that most people live, whether physically, intellectually, or morally, in a very restricted circle of our potential being, of our soul's resources in general. Much like the person who out of their entire bodily organism would get into the habit of using and moving only their little finger. I want you to think for a moment, if you had a child and that child was laying perfectly still in its crib, and the only part of its body it was ever able to move was its little finger, I'm quite certain that you would probably beg, you would borrow, and if you had to, you would steal to find out what's wrong with that child. But isn't it strange that a human being can stop growing mentally at a very early age, and it can be virtually ignored? This is, without question, one of the most important subjects we can go to. I want to refer back to something Napoleon Hill wrote again that caught my attention when I first read the book. He pointed out in here, somewhere in your makeup, there lies sleeping the seed of achievement, which, if aroused and put into action, will carry you to heights such as you may have never hoped to attain. Do you know, as I think of this and as I read it now, I'm doing things today that 27 years ago, if anyone had suggested, I would have thought they were hallucinating.
And that goes for each and every buddy on this planet. You have the seeds of potential within you. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
When we start to study ourselves, there's only 2 points of reference we can go to. One is science, and the other is theology. There doesn't seem to be anywhere else to go. I have found that there are only 6 basic religions. Now, I spent quite a bit of time living and working in California. I think there's something like 4,000 religions in California, but everybody starts their own out there because there's tax breaks, you see. But you're still going to find there's just 6 basic religions, and they all teach us essentially the same thing. They teach us that we are non-physical beings. They may use a different word, but the concept is the same. Do you know, it's a strange thing. Most people don't even know much about their own religion, and yet they say mine's right and all the rest are wrong, and they don't even know what the others are. I have found that every one of them has the truth in it. We are non-physical beings. See, the truth is something like the center of town. It really doesn't matter which side you approach it from. When you get there, you're in the same place. Now, the other area that we might want to look at is science. Science tells you your energy. As a matter of fact, a DuPont scientist many years ago said that the electrons and the atoms of your body contain a potential energy of more than 11 million kilowatt hours per pound. Do you know that there's enough potential energy locked up in that thing that you're sitting in that we call a body to light up this whole North American continent for nearly a week? And then you'll hear people say, I haven't got any energy. What a ridiculous statement. That's all we are, is a mass of energy. Do you know this thing you're living in vibrates? It glows. As a matter of fact, there is an aura of energy around your body. That is the cells leaving your body. Your body changes at the rate of about 50,000 cells per second. And as cells leave the body, new ones are created. And you know, you can photograph the energy leaving the body. Semyon Kurlian, way back in the early 30s, perfected a form of photography where he could take and photograph mass, and the rays of energy coming from the body would penetrate the camera, penetrate the film, and you'd actually catch it on the film. And you'd photograph the density and the color of it. I would imagine you're very familiar with this, are you, honey? That's right. Think of this for a second. You see sitting here on the lectern a glass of water. Now, let's stop and think about this for a moment. We call that glass. It's actually energy. Because of the speed it's vibrating at, we call it glass. We call this water. That's what it is. It's water. But it's actually energy too. As a matter of fact, the ring that's hitting it is energy, and the finger that the ring is on is energy. Everything's energy. Everything vibrates at a different speed. Stay with me here for a moment. What we're talking about here is energy. Now, while the energy is in the vibratory rate it's in that glass, we're going to call it water. And we call it water because it's vibrating at a physical or a corporeal state. If you were to add heat to that energy that we call water, you wouldn't call it water anymore. Then you would change the terminology that you would use. It'd be the same energy, but it would be moving faster in a higher speed of vibration. Then we would call it steam or vapor. And we would call the energy steam or vapor because it's not in a physical vibration. It's now moved into what we call an astral vibration. If we were to continue to add heat to that energy that we are in a higher speed of vibration, then we would call it steam or vapor. And we would call the energy steam or vapor because it's not in a physical vibration. It's now moved into what we call an astral vibration. If we were to continue to add heat to that energy that we now call steam, you wouldn't call it steam any longer. You would call it air, ether, or gas. And that's because it's not in an astral vibration any longer. It's moved into now what we call an etheric vibration. But every level, it's the same energy. Now, as we take a look at this, we're going to let these lines represent levels of vibration, or as we more commonly refer to them as frequencies. And you know, each frequency is hooked up to the one above and the one below. There's no line of demarcation where one stops and the other starts. See, every frequency, it's like the colors of a rainbow. As they fit together, there's no place where one color stops and the other starts. They're all joined together. Now, you're never going to see that with something you call sight. Sight is a physical sensory factor. You have to go to one of your higher faculties, and you develop this through understanding. You start to understand. So you see, the part of us that we cannot see and the part we can see is all the same. This is just the flip side of the coin of this. Spirit always manifests through its polar opposite. We have the ability right here to tap in to this great power that I choose to refer to as spirit, and we can tap in with an intellect, and we can cause this power to literally move into form, into something we call an idea. That idea must literally move into something we refer to as results. You see, both science and theology clearly indicate nothing is created or destroyed. The only thing you can do is cause it to change. Now, this particular program is about prosperity. And when we think of prosperity, money plays a very large role. But of course, so do relationships, and so does the health of our body. But let's go back and think about money for a moment. Now, when you think about money, money is really an idea. You say, that's money. No, money is an idea. It's manifest on paper. Now, paper used to be wood. I remember when I was a little boy, I lived way up in Michipicoten Harbor. That's about 3 wigwams this side of the North Pole. It's a little north of King Garden, I think. But at any rate, when I lived up there, I'd watch them take these large logs out on flat cars on the railroad. And I remember people telling me that they were going to make paper out of it. I thought, how do you make paper out of a tree? It didn't seem to make sense. Well, you alter the vibratory rate of the energy that's called wood, and pretty soon it's called paper. And then you put ink on it, and now we call it money. Now let's think about this money for a moment. If it can be neither created nor destroyed, it must already be here. If we can't destroy it, if heat will cause the energy that we call water to move into an etheric state, I would imagine heat would cause what we call money to move into an etheric state. And there it goes. And where is it? You say it's gone. It's not gone, still here. You see, you'll never see it on the level it's on now with your physical sensory factor sight. But if you use your intellect and develop understanding, you'll know that it's still here. What we want to do is cause it to move into form. Now, that's just about as bizarre as anything you'll ever hear to some people's ears. But
It's truth, though. It's, everything starts spiritually. We're all spirits. We're all children of God. We were spirits before we had bodies, and we'll have spirits after we have bodies. Just because you die don't mean you'll still exist. You will still exist.
I'm going to tell you it's just as true as anything you'll ever hear if you understand natural laws. And what I'm talking about is moving your mind into a higher vibration, developing a higher consciousness, and you can literally attract all the good that you want. You see, money is literally attracted to us, or it's repelled. Now, in the first 27 years of my life, I can assure you that I was not magnetized to that green energy. It used to stay away from me, and now it just keeps coming to me. What did he say in this book? Right in the start of it, he said, when money starts coming, it'll come so fast and so furious, it will literally make your head spin. Now, let's take
something he said that I kind of want to emphasize the fact that everybody's going to have a money baseline for a month or a year. And your money baseline has more to do with how much money you make right now than anything else, than any kind of actions or things that you know, or if you can make yourself believe strong enough that you are normally a $30,000 a month earner, you can get there easily. It'll just come to you if you stick with the idea and you're able to have 100% faith in that idea. You know, if somebody's a millionaire and that's all they know, you think if they lost all that, 90% of them will get that back. Like, they will find a way to get that back. And if you have people that are on the other side that are constantly, you know, people that are only make $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year, and that's what their normal is, and they win the lottery and they become millionaires overnight, it doesn't take very long before they spend all that money and go back. A lot of them end up bankrupt within a year. Why is that? It's because they're used to the lower amount, and they get the higher amount and they don't know what to do with it, and they go crazy with it. Instead of investing, instead of saving, instead of growing businesses with it, they just go and they buy a bunch of cars and stuff that moths corrupt and rust gets a hold of, and people steal, and fires come along, floods, and then you don't have insurance, you don't have this, and you don't watch your money, and you're consuming, and then it's gone. And there's levels to that. So just kind of something else to keep in mind.
these simple concepts that have deep meaning. And let's take this other board here and build a picture. One of our intellectual factors is imagination. Another one is reason. Now, with reason, we have the ability to think. John's going to be talking about that a little later on. With our imagination, we can tap into this infinite power and we can build beautiful pictures in our mind. Now, since no one has an image of the mind, we have to make one. It's like the little boy in school. He was sitting there doodling away, drawing a picture, and teacher says, "What are you doing, son?" Kid says, "I'm drawing a picture of God." Teacher says, "Nobody's ever seen God." Well, he says, "Wait till I finish the picture, you know." I heard about a gentleman that was running a seminar in Vancouver, British Columbia. I was living and working in Chicago at the time. I, at the time, was prepared to go anywhere. The name of the game, Bob, he says, it's results. Pretty good teacher a long time ago said, by their fruits, you'll know them. In other words, you can always tell a person's level of awareness by the results they're getting. If the results aren't there, they have no one to blame but themselves. For 27 years, I blamed everybody. I blamed my parents. I blamed my brother, my sister. I blamed my employers. I blamed the commanding officers I had in the Navy. It was never me, always them. They weren't doing enough for me. They weren't doing it right. The truth was, I wasn't facing up to the truth about me. I was never seeing the mind. I'm going to make a picture of the mind. Now he said, let this represent the mind. Then he said, let this represent the thing that we've given all of our attention to now, up till now, the body. And he says it's this thing here that moves into action and causes the results that we get. If we're going to change what we do, or if we're going to change our behavior, we're definitely going to have to change what's going on in here. If we're going to change what's going on in here, we're going to have to understand how it functions. And it's
This is probably one of the most important parts of the seminar, so make sure you watch this, rewatch it, whatever you got to do to understand this part.
he pointed out there are two sections to the mind, joined together, but different in their method of operation. And he referred to this as the conscious mind and this as the subconscious mind. Now, if you look on page 6 of your action planner, you'll see that drawing. The day Leland Bell Vanderwall drew that on the opposite side of a placemat in the coffee shop of the Skyline Hotel on Dixon Road in Toronto. That's not a crazy idea at all. You want to be a millionaire? You can be a millionaire. If you want to start your own business, you can start your own business. You can do anything you want. But clearly understand this. If you don't know how this works, you haven't got a snowball's chance in that hot place of doing it.
We're just about to the end of this first tape. There's been some very important material covered. It's vitally important that you go back and you read through this book, possibly even watch the entire tape again before going on to the next tape. Read from page 5 to page 8. Cover your own notes and pay particular attention to page 8 before you go to the second tape. Please understand this. This program will be of little value if you have not established a goal, something you really want, that you're emotionally involved in, that you're working towards, possibly to help you.
Kind of off the subject, but I love this little ship that he's got here. Life goals, Bob. But yeah, it's kind of the end of that part. And he gets more into the next video that I'll be doing on the difference of the subconscious mind from the conscious mind and different ways that. So your conscious mind is the one that does, it's the one that does all the acting and the actions. It's the one that I'm using right now usually to think, the one that you're using to probably watch this video. The subconscious mind is the one that you really have to program. And I cover a lot of that in my other videos on this channel. And so I would say to watch videos on my channel, watch videos that Bob Proctor has, watch videos on Neville Goddard, people like that, law of attraction stuff. A lot of the great teachers of the law of attraction talk about different ways that you would program your subconscious mind and when and how. So watch out for other videos. I'll have part 2, part 3, part 4 of this as well on my channel coming out in the next few days. If you're interested in seeing those, comment below. And if you like this, comment, let me know any kind of things that give me any kind of thoughts that you have. Thanks.